welcome to the stream. Nobody's late. We just started right now. This second. Welcome to the stream. Little quick impromptu stream. There's big news coming out of the Wall Street Journal that I want to show you, and I'm going to call it right now. I think this is pretty much a done deal now. Twitter and Elon Musk, and I'll show you in a second why. So this just came out in the Wall Street Journal, and the significance of this article is kind of more important than just the headline suggests, and I'll show you why. So basically, according to this article, Twitter re-examines Elon Musk's bid, may be more receptive to a deal. The two sides are meeting today to discuss takeover bid. People familiar with the matter say. By the way, you don't meet anybody on Sunday unless it's super super important and urgent. I mean, think about it. They're meeting on a freaking Sunday. So this is not why I'm excited about this. I want to show a little bit more, and then I'll tell you why I think that this is 100% now a down deal. So essentially, they're saying here that Twitter is re-examining the deal after Elon provided financing. Basically, Twitter has been expected to rebuff the deal, which is what we all been hearing for the past few days. When they sent out anonymous sources to explain why the deal is so bad for Twitter, and now they're basically saying, well, now we actually are taking a fresh look at the offer and are more likely than before to seek to negotiate. The situation is fast moving and it's still far from guaranteed Twitter will do so. And basically, the idea is that, they're meeting today to discuss this, but this is a done deal. And I'll explain why. So let me scroll back up and let me show you what I mean. So basically, here's what just happened. And unfortunately, mainstream media can't give you that uh, because they're either too stupid to figure it out or they're too lazy. And I'll explain to you what's actually going on here. So let's go through the timeline real quick. So Elon buys shares of Twitter without any of us knowing as of January 31st, I believe. And he's buying up shares, buying up shares, buying up shares. None of us know nothing about it. And then in April, he reports late that now he owns 9.1% of the company. Now, the report comes out, the share price spikes, of course, as you would expect. And the next thing that happened is that Elon Musk got offered a seat on the board of directors of Twitter. Now, at that point, that seat came with strings attached, such as that he cannot go above 15% of ownership in the company. Essentially, this was supposed to be a sweet deal for him. Get a seat at the table, get an opportunity to impact and have you heard by the company, but don't take over and don't fire all of us because that's kind of what's going to happen if he's going to take over. Now, Elon initially seemed like he's going to take that offer, but as Parag Agarwal posted on Twitter, on the 11th hour, he basically said, no, I'm not going to do that. And that was basically when we all knew that he's going to go balls deep into this and going to try to purchase the entire company. And of course, that's exactly what happened. A day or two later, he submitted an offer to the board of directors at $54.20. Now, at this point, this offer basically was received with lukewarm feelings by the professional finance community, including, my good friend Patrick Boyle, who all said, well, this isn't serious. I mean, this is just an offer. We don't think he's actually going to do this. This is just Elon being bored and whatever, and a whole bunch of different narratives about how Elon is not serious about it. And of course, to everybody's surprise, but the people who follow Elon, he doesn't do things, just to be the clown. So basically, a few days later, he posts and provides funding. He basically submits a form that specifies, hey, I have $46 billion in funding. Some of it is more, secure than other, but I mean, basically it's as serious as it gets. So he provides a submission of sufficient funding. I believe that happened on Thursday, so just 3 days ago. And throughout this whole process, what you kept hearing in the news, and I'm going to talk about the comments in the stream in just a second. I'm just going to go through my kind of rant. So throughout this whole process, before he provided the funding, remember, you kept hearing every single day people would come out and say, hey, yeah, this is a bad offer. They sent out one of the shareholders, a 5% shareholder in company, the Saudi prince, I believe, or somebody or one of the Saudis came out and said, well, this is a bad offer. And everywhere, all you heard is reporters talking about how Twitter board is going to reject this offer, about how much it's awful, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And in the same time, basically what happened is that Twitter enacted the poison pill. Now, the poison pill was enacted to basically uh, pause the whole situation. And that's something I got to credit my friend Patrick Boyle, who explained this on our previous stream 2 days ago, explaining how the poison pill isn't an adversarial move, it's not a fighting move, it's just designed to pause things. So, and I'll explain what I mean. So, Patrick really did a fine job explaining this. So, I hope I'm doing this justice. Essentially, the way the poison pill works, that every time Elon goes about 15%, he gets dropped down. So, let's say he has 100 stock, the entire company has 1,000 stock, and he buys 100 more. So now he holds 200 out of 1,000. So at that point, the poison pill gets triggered. The company gives out 800 more shares, or basically half the price, to the existing shareholders. And now Elon became just a holder of 200 stock out of a total of 1,800 stock. So he just went from 20% to 11%. He got dropped in the elevator. And essentially, the board can keep doing it again, again, again to discourage him forever. And this is also something that Patrick explained to me, that it's a transferable right. A shareholder that doesn't have the liquidity to do this can essentially sell his right to participate in this offer, and it's not going to stop it from happening. So even if you're not liquid, you can sell it and monetize it and whatever. And I'm guessing a lot of people at this point would say, well, Tom, you should know more about poison pills. I mean, you shouldn't rely on Patrick to explain this thing to you. Motherfucker, I mean, the poison pill is something from the 80s. I mean, this is like Gordon Gecko level shit. I mean, it's not like companies are poison pilling left and right. This shit doesn't happen. I mean, it happens maybe once or twice in the past 30 years. It's not something that just, happens. So it's not very, very common. And shout out to Patrick for explaining to me this. So basically, the board basically paused the whole situation and said, hey, we're waiting. We're waiting to see what happens. And the reason they did this is basically, imagine you just got an offer, right? And somebody offered to buy your house from you. And he just came up, knocked on your door and says, hey, I want your house. I'm going to pay $1 million for your house, right? So the first thing you're going to do is going to say, hold on a second. You're going to call your realtor. You're going to find out if there's any other offers you can get that are better. If you can maybe negotiate with this guy, if he can offer you a better price. Maybe it's just lowballing you. Maybe it's just the first offer. You're basically trying to slow shit down, try and figure out what the fuck is going on, whether it's a good offer, a bad offer. I mean, you weren't even thinking about selling your house just a few minutes ago, right? You're not just going to say, yo, let's shake on it right away, right? So the board is using the poison pill to create that pause, because the poison pill essentially creates a situation where Elon can't move and without actually talking to the board. And basically that's kind of just because if he moves on that, essentially they have to do it, and then they dilute themselves, they drop the share price, he overpays massively. Nobody wants that. It's kind of a weapons of mass distraction. It's just mutual assured destruction. Nobody wants to do that. So the poison pill is just there to prevent the shit from happening. So all along, basically what happened for the past few days is that Twitter hired Goldman Sachs, and don't get me started on that, Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan, to hunt for other deals. Basically, they paused the whole thing and they sent out Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan, go find us a deal. Find us somebody who can outbid Elon. Maybe we can get a better price. And there will be potential bidders out there who would want Twitter despite its shitty performance, such as social media companies, Google, Facebook, Amazon. They would love to get their hands on Twitter, but the regulator in the US would never allow that to happen, because that would be essentially creating a monopoly. So the antitrust issues will not allow any of these social media platforms to get a hold of Twitter. So those that can buy Twitter and would like to buy Twitter at a very at almost any price are not going to get allowed by the FTC to buy that from regulatory perspective. It's just a monopoly. So it leaves us with companies who would be looking at Twitter as a business venture, right? So you look at Twitter as a business venture. You look, well, this stock did 15% in 8 years. Their cash flow is garbage. They can't monetize. They're in a world of hurt as far as PR nightmare. They censoring left and right. People, they kicked out Donald Trump. I don't know, whatever. So basically, as an investment, I mean, just looking at Twitter from a accounting perspective, free cash flow, I mean, this is a really bad investment. In fact, Patrick Boyle said this on our stream. He said, well, for Elon, it's a bad investment. Of course, that's assuming he's not going to SpaceX slash Tesla the fuck out of Twitter and actually make it profitable. I mean, and this is a question I asked Patrick on a stream and I said, hey, Patrick, if I would have told you after the PayPal deal that Elon is going to invest all his money in a space rocket company, what would you have said? And he admitted, to his credit, I would have said it's a horrible deal. What if and the same thing can be said about Tesla. So SpaceX and Tesla were also horrible deals when Elon took them up. And basically, he obviously made a lot of money on both companies. So basically, what happened is that I'm assuming the Twitter board went out there and sent out Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan for the past few days to hunt for bids. And I'm assuming they came back empty handed because they basically, I mean, who would buy Twitter at $43 billion? The company that, what, they bring in peanuts, they can't monetize. It's just, it's a dumpster fire. So basically, right now, the board is facing a really tough decision. So no other competitive bids out there. Elon is offering 43 billion, which is 20% above or more above the share price or whatever it is, above the current share price at a really horrible market. And we're looking at more interest rate hikes, which will send the price of the stock down. We're looking at a recession. We'll look at geopolitics, nightmare, potentially war, supply chain issues, really a host of trouble that's coming towards the stock market. And now this guy is offering 20% premium. And basically, so what happens is that, imagine, you know how in Shark Tank, Mark Cuban would go to the contestants and he would say, hey, my offer is just there for the next 30 seconds. If you don't take this offer in the next 30 seconds, it's gone. So what happens in a negotiation, right? The party you're trying to sell something to, you want to pressure them. You want to create a lack of time for them. And they're trying to create time so they can think clearly, so they can strategize. So there's a battle for time. So what the board is basically saying, hey, we need more time, chill. Elon is trying to put pressure on them, say, you don't have any time. So today, and this is the crazy part, Elon tweeted a cryptic tweet. And in that tweet, he said, moving on. And that's it. That's all he said, moving on. And he left that on Twitter without any context for a couple of hours. And of course, eventually, he clarified this tweet by saying, hey, I'm talking about Bill Gates and my feud with Bill Gates. But for a few hours, it was out there. People were wondering, is he talking about Twitter? Essentially, what he did, he basically checkmated the Twitter board. He basically showed them, hey, I might walk away. You don't have the time you think you have. Because if I walk away, finito. Because if Elon walks away, the board is going to get sued so bad. And I'll explain why. If Elon walks away now, here's what's going to happen. If he walks away from this deal, essentially the share price is going to, if he sells the stock and, the share price is going to go down to $35, $34, $32, I don't know. And in about, I guess, on May 4th, the Fed is going to announce anywhere from 50 to 75 basis points of more interest, which is going to push the stock market even more down. And so basically what's going to happen is that it's going to be a lot of angry shareholders. There are a lot of angry shareholders going to be basically saying, hey, we could have gotten $54.20 for our shares. You basically dragged your feet. The guy walked away from the deal. And now we have half of what he offered to us. And they're all going to get sued. Not to mention the reputational damage that each of these directors is going to have to carry on their back for the rest of their life for screwing up such an easy, basically, layup. So essentially what happened, I believe his tweet, moving on, even though he clarified it later that it had to do with Bill Gates, was intentional to put some pressure on them. Because for those 2 hours, I'm sure every single board member of Twitter was getting phone calls and text messages and WhatsApp messages. Basically, what's going on? Is Elon moving on? And they realized, oh shit, we might lose this deal because we're basically just fucking around. And I think it's them saying, hey, we're open to this deal. Let's meet today. Not wait until Monday. Let's meet today. That means they know that this deal must be made and it will happen. And the only, some of you may say, well, maybe Elon pulls out of the deal and gives them a lower offer right now because now they're basically desperate. They don't have any other offers. He might, but it's very unlikely because he already created a price and they relied on that price. So they basically changed their position adversely in reliance of the $54 price. And if it goes down, they might claim that they were damaged. So it's not likely he's going to lower his bid. So in that situation where Elon is unlikely to lower his bid and they're not seeing any other offers, it seems that it's going to go down the $54 range and it's going to get done.